Welcome gamers to Fortress Friday. My name is DasTactic. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this series. If you like this sort of content, please consider liking and subscribing. And a special thank you to my Patreon supporters and anybody who supports the channel, whether it be through merchandise. I've got some Dwarf Fortress shirts available as well, so by all means partake in the links below. It does help me a lot actually with that sort of stuff. So thanks guys if you are sort of getting the merch. I'll try to get more and more of it actually out. I've been a bit tardy with that in recent months, so I'll sort of I'll do some more illustration and sort of get some of those things for you. Right, anyway, we're going to be talking today about what to do when you first get into a game of Dwarf Fortress. So we've actually now embarked. We've just done the embark. The thing that I always read, by all means read, most of this one doesn't really sort of change much, but often you just get a little bit of a hint as to what you might come across with this little line through here. So enough time to delve secure lodgings ere the dingo men get hungry. A few little things here. Let's just read the whole thing. I'll just try to explain what's going on. You've arrived after a journey from the mountain homes into the forbidding wilderness below. Beyond, sorry. Your harsh trek has finally ended. Your party of 7 is to make an outpost for the glory of all Angbin. Now, Angbin is going to be the name of the civilization that we're part of. So that's actually our dwarven civilization. There are almost no supplies left, but with stout labour comes sustenance, whether by bolt, plough or hook, provide for your dwarves. So we need to get to a point where our dwarves can feed themselves and look after themselves. You're expecting a supply caravan just before winter entombs you. Now, we start off in granite, which is early spring. So we're starting off in spring. We've got 6 months, essentially, to get ready for the trade caravan, which should come. The first trade caravan that comes is going to be, the first few, will be coming with just beasts of burden, no carts. So we don't have to cater for the carts. We just have to cater for them to be able to get down with their beasts of burden. For those, they can go through staircases or anything else, but eventually the trade caravan is going to then require something 3 wide all the way through to then be able to sort of, and no stairs, it can only sort of do it through ramps, etc., to then get to wherever the trade caravan actually is. So just be aware of that, just so you can prepare for it. And I'll go through that a little bit as we get started in through here. And so then we've got enough time to delve secure lodgings there. The dingo men get hungry. So dingo men would be a creature that we may encounter. These are going to be sort of like humanoid dingoes, I guess, a little bit like not kobolds, gnolls, I guess, a bit sort of like a gnoll type character. New chapter of here we go for our place. So Licker Thomas Ink Shoved, which is the name that was sort of randomly chosen up the top through here. Just going to click on OK. Now, as soon as you click OK, have a look up in here. If this thing goes to the play, and I don't know, at some point, hopefully that they make it where you can actually pause right from the very, very start. If I click on OK, it then plays. I'm always just press the space bar so you can do an evaluation without the game running forward. The reason that's important is, depending on where you start, you could start in a very, very dangerous location where you have to make some pretty snappy decisions. Generally, that's only if you're going into like a haunted or terrifying type biome that you may have to really think on your feet. But if you're going to a normal biome, there still may be creatures around that you need to cater for. So the very first thing I do is to come down to the citizen information menu down into here. And then when you go across, you've got others. Click on those. We can then sort of see what the actual other animals are that are actually on the map with us. In this case, we've got sea lampreys. They're not really a problem. They're just a wild animal. We have an alligator snapping turtle as well, and we can go to wherever these things actually are. These are inside the creek, a fair way away from where we are. This one won't really be impacting us badly at all, so that's just going to be essentially just a turtle. And so there's nothing there in amongst these others. What have we got there? That's a sturgeon there, so just a fish. So none of these are going to concern us at all. So that's the first thing, just have a bit of a look at, just to see if there's anything that's a threat. And do that fairly regularly as you sort of then go and play the game. Let's just go back out. And if you just press F1, you're then going to be taken back to the start. So you can sort of then go and see where you actually are. So that means we don't have to rush doing what we're going to do. We can now start to think a little bit about how we're going to then prepare for our fortress. Now, if we have to rush, try to get underground as fast as you possibly can. And so I'll do a few different types of, looks at a few different ways of approaching the starts. Now, when we have a look at the mini map, you can see that we're on a thin stretch of land in through this other side. We've got a slope over this other area, and we go down a slope over this way. So a couple of slopes down this other side. So we can, if we wanted to, sort of come back across and start to build up. If I just go back up into here, it goes up again, then goes up again. And then that's pretty much the sort of the top of the actual tree, at the top of the hill. So we've got a bit of a hill in through this other side where we sort of had started. Now, it can be tempting to sort of think, okay, I'm going to rush across here and dig into this side of this hill and build my fortress or what I'm doing in that particular fort in that particular area. The trouble with doing that is that, like for example, you'll see that there's trees all over the place and through this other side. And if we have a look over through here, we can actually see that at this location, in fact at this location as well, the pecan tree or the pecan tree above it, so this is the pecan tree trunk, and if I sort of zoom up we can then sort of see it's a fairly big sort of tree. This has actually got a root system. If we actually end up chopping that tree down, if the tree ends up sort of not being there anymore, the roots can sort of leave, like if we've got anything going underneath where these are, it can cause a weakness in your fortress that invaders can come through. So I tend to avoid going into these. If this was rock, that would be a different sort of story, because the rock, the trees don't really grow in the rock, but they do grow in soil. So digging into soil like that is not a great idea. So avoid that unless you've sort of got like an area that's very, very steep where you can sort of get under at least 2 layers very, very quickly. You don't want to sort of be worrying too much about that, as if you can help it. Back on this particular plane, we've got like a lot of trees in through here as well. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll just dig down and start to sort of dig. Now the choices we have at the start through here, if I just go and click on the dig menu, we've got 2 different ways of digging into the soil. We can either dig staircases straight away and just build a stairwell all the way down, like just start to get underground a little bit, or we can dig ramps. Really up to you, whichever way you want to go. I always try to think in terms of defences, like how am I going to defend a ramp, how am I going to defend a hole in the ground, where's that going to lead to over time. You can actually sort of plan things out in the fortress and then sort of just expose them as required, which is a good way to sort of get things going. So I might even sort of show that. It's just as a bit of a way forward. Let's just use, for example, now if we are going to have ultimately a trade caravan, let's just prepare for the trade caravan. So let's think, okay, well, let's actually make it so that we end up with a bit of a ramp that goes down underneath. And so we'll just start to sort of draw these in. So dig a channel down. So this is the digging a channel. So we'll dig a ramp down, say for example through here. It's going to have to be 3 wide. Oops, into that one there. So this is going to be a dig down 3 wide. Now we want to go down a couple of layers before we start to sort of focus on anything else. So we'll just go down to the next layer, just see where we are. And so just dig those into there. Next layer. And then we should be, actually we probably want to just not so much do that one, but then just go back to normal locations there, and we'll just go around a corner here. If we go a little bit further, we can then put like a gate there if we needed to into one of these sort of locations. So we can sort of make it a little bit more tricky that way. Let's just go this way a little bit, and depending on how far we want to go, that would then sort of be a good way for us to then get started for the trade caravan. And it may be that we think, okay, well, let's just pop the trade caravan right in here. So we're still a couple of layers underneath the ground. The root system won't impact us in this location, and so we can then just dig out the area for a trade caravan. Now the trade caravan requires essentially a 5x5, so I'm just going to make that a little bit larger. So that would be sort of where we'd have the trade caravan. But initially, we don't need to do that. This is not urgent. So what we can then just go and do is click on that little box over through there. I'm covering certain areas in through here, but over this side, we can change to blueprint only mode, or we can actually go and say anything that's actually been standardly done just changes to blueprint. So I can go and click on that one. I can then just go and say, okay, well, all that's going to be blueprint. We're not going to do it yet, but we're planning for it. This can be quite useful. Just do that as well, and this one as well. So we know that this is for the future. Then we just go back and click back onto the standard areas back over this side. It turns off this area for blueprinting As long as you don't see blue, it's going to then be accurate. Now, if we're going to be going down here for our trade caravan, we probably want to have a staircase relatively close to where this actually is, so we can end up fortifying what's going on through this other side. So we can certainly make a staircase in around here somewhere. So maybe next to it. I'm just thinking we could end up with a fortress with a wall in between. Could even be further back in, like for example, back into this other side. Now, what you may want to be doing is initially just going in with a one wide staircase, but then making it bigger as your fortress gets, like as you start to plan for it. So whether you sort of again plan out in this at the start. Now, to make a staircase, just click on one area. I'm going to make it a 2x2 ultimately, but we're not going to have to worry too much about this one. We go past that one. That's going to be where the trade caravan will sort of be. So we're avoiding the trade caravan area, and we'll just go down one more layer here, I think, and we'll just sort of stop at that point there. Now again, when we sort of stop, we end up with an up stair. We've got an up down stair, and then a down stair by doing it this way. I'll do a separate video on managing staircases, but in this case, again, we only really want to have just the start of what we're going to be doing. So we want to just go back in and just grab this one as well. Just go and change this one so we end up with it being this one. Well, I'll just go with one of them to start with, just again, so we're getting the bare minimum of what we need. Now, we may hit the aquifer before we even get started, and that's something we'd have to then sort of manage. But if we go down the bottom through here, I'm then just going to dig a hole. Now I'm sort of starting to think again that what I'll be wanting to do is probably have a landing on this area. So I can dig all these out and just sort of show the actual landing area. I like to have a doorway, so we can actually have a door in through this other side. Sometimes I'll be wanting to have like an area where we can then sort of entrap different creatures. So we may be back a 3x3 in there for entrapment. Actually, I'll make it go that way, and we can then just go back across. And that's the wrong one, just go with that one there, and then we'll just go back in again and just dig another one and then start an actual corridor. So we'll just get a corridor that sort of runs a bit further down. Initially what we're trying to do is get areas where we can start to build like a stockpile. Now I can do that within whatever I'm building in here and then fix it up later, and so initially it's just to try to sort of get some area underground that we can make good use of. Now this may all be aquifer for all we know. So at this point I'm sort of happy enough with what we've got there. We can just go back again. We don't need any of this stuff, so we'll just go and lock all that off so that we end up digging this area out. So this will be the focus of what we actually are going to be digging. Let's just see what actually happens. We can now sort of unpause. Actually, one other thing that is useful to do is to start getting your axe dwarf to start to chop down some of the trees. So we'll just quickly do that as well. So we just go back across to this one here, so the tree chopping. And just be careful you don't do it right over the top of where all your dwarves are going to be. So only pick the trees where they're away from creatures, because if they do fall, they can actually hurt them. So we'll just get a few of these trees done. We've got a big tree there. So we'll just get a handful of these chopped up. Initially, you do want to be doing this one. When we unpause, the different workers will then go and grab their equipment, and then they'll start on what they're doing. So if we just unpause, we then see that they're chopping the trees. Here comes our miner. He's now going to start digging. I always like to follow the miner down just to see what's going to happen. And unpause again. And now we're in the sand layer here. And they're just going to start digging this one. We've got black sand, we've got yellow sand, which is actually interesting. We're going to be able to make good use of this. So this is just our first layer. The next thing I like to do is, even before we sort of started really doing too much in here, is to start to prepare for bringing things inside as quickly as possible. At the moment, we've got like a lot of dwarves just hanging around, doing absolutely nothing up the top in here. So the next thing to do is to come back down and create a stockpile for everything up top. And so we're just going to go across, go into our stockpiles, going to place a new one. I'm just going to start painting from here and just going to keep on changing this over time. Now I'm going to accept that one. I'm going to make this into an all, and then I'm going to tweak it. So we're going to go down to the custom, and we're going to turn off a few different things that we don't want. Now by default, corpses and refuse get turned off. We don't want wood in here initially. Otherwise we're going to end up with with everything down in here. So it's going to get too full. We also don't want stone in here either as we find it. So we want to keep it fairly clean. In fact, if not so much there, I'll just go into here and just click on none from that other side. Everything else is fine. So we'll just bring that one across. That way we end up with everything from up top will then end up coming back downstairs. Now we have to also then get set up with a couple of other little areas. It's going to be very fast for our miner to get through this little area. I like to have my workshops off on a bit in it, like a little 4x4s. I'll just go and prepare a few of these. So we'll just get these established as well. Now the first workshop I want to get is actually going to be a carpenter's workshop. So I'll build that one in here. And here they come bringing all the stuff in. Now as they start to fill this one up, we wanted to then start to expand these, and we'll just keep on doing this over time. This is now big enough for me to start to do different things. Now we haven't got any actual building materials, I don't think. Like if we go, actually no, we've got the wood up top, so we can use the wood now to start to do different things. The first thing we want is to build something where we can build a door to close the fortress down. And a hatch as well. If we've got a staircase or a ramp, we can use a hatch, which will stop most things. Excuse me. So we go across. In this case, now that we're in this, we go into this menu here, which is the structures, and then we go to workshops, and then we'll find the carpenter's workshop in here. So this is usually the first one that you build. Go and throw that one in there. Then we've got all these logs up top. Whatever's the closest, we'll do. So we'll go and grab that one. Now another thing I'm going to do here, I'll just wait for that one to be built, is we've got this little area around here. I'm going to fill this up with wood. So I'm going to go back in and grab another stockpile. I'm going to go and just add it into here, and this one's going to be a wood stockpile. So we're just going to go across into wood, and that one's done. Okay, so we've now got a wood stockpile there. This one here, as this one fills up, what we want to do is just keep on repaint the stockpile, and add more to it. So I'm going to sort of allow it to go into where the other workshops ultimately will end up being. This will then get built by the wood eventually. Just keep on repainting this as you expose more territory, because initially you just need to get everything from down from upstairs. Okay, so they're now building the carpenter's workshop. Just keep on painting these as we go. Okay, I'll just pause it there and we'll just have another bit of an evaluation. There's a snapping turtle there, not that it really matters. In fact, it may just be, that's a raw pond turtle. So this has actually been killed. Maybe, I don't know if we took it with us or we've actually just actually found that one. Excuse me, I've got a real tickle in the throat today. So that's sort of getting us started with getting the things in from up top. Just in case we have to lock it down, that's really the reason for this. So the woodcutter is still doing things in through here. Have another quick look to see if there's any others that have come in. We've got an eagle, we've got a peregrine falcon. Some of these can steal your equipment. They're not likely to attack you, but they can steal things. Another thing we can do in here fairly early on is to go back to the wagon and disassemble it. We get 3 wood from doing that, and that just removes the wagon from the top. So we'll do that, and then we'll continue on. We've still got a few more of these things to chop down as well. Let's just go back across, grab those. We don't need too much, to be honest. This is already a lot of wood. If we've got idling dwarves and we sort of want to do something with them, we could actually go and tell them to create like another wood stockpile up into here, for example. Oops, hang on, where are we? Just go and click on this one. And make this into a wood stockpile as well. Accept wood. And that way at least it's just going to be accessible for when we do need it. So we've got another one on the outside of the fortress. Now, next thing we want to do is to protect our fortress. So we're just going to go and add a new work order. The first thing we're going to do is to grab a wooden door. And we're going to add another task, which is to get a wooden hatch cover. And that's pretty much initially all we need to do. I might even get another door as well. This will then protect your fortress. So we can then sort of just go okay with that one through there. In the meantime, back up and through here, we also want to, one of the other things that actually happens is that if no one's doing anything, they hover around this area. This area is where the is essentially where the is supposedly the meeting area, because it's where the wagon actually is, and so we need to actually designate an area for our dwarves to hang around in. So let's make it, even though this is a stockpile, we can still go to zones and make this into a meeting area. So we'll just go and make it can be fairly small. I'll just make it, they say that one into there, into a meeting area. In fact, I'll make this whole workshop into a meeting area for now. This is just temporary, but it does get us started. So they'll come in here for meeting, and our animals will tend to come in here as well. But we want to put the animals into their own pen, and we'll do the same over here. We'll just go back into the, let's click on the stockpile, repaint that one. And what we'll then just do, I'll just pause this, and we'll go and change this into our pen. So we go back into zones yet again, don't show again, and we just go to pen or pasture. Now this is not going to feed the animals, but it's going to just keep them there for a month or two, and until we find a better location for them. So, oops, hang on, with this one in here, if I just go back into the zones, click on that zone, I can then go in and tell them which animals to bring in. Now we've got, again, I've got a mod which is bringing in some of the unusual things. Let's just go and bring a bit of everything into here. There's a lot of stuff that we actually have. So all of these animals, this is going to be, they're going to starve very, very quickly in there, but at least it will get them sort of, keep them out of the way. And away from the top as well, just so that they don't actually get killed, you know, if anything nasty does actually come our way. Just going to right click on that one, click on the area, repaint the zone, and we'll just keep on going this way a little bit. And that's sort of, we're sort of now getting towards the end here. Now, when your miner runs out of tasks to do, I mean, always make sure that your miners have got something to do. I'll just go and build another one in there initially. And that way we can sort of, as we sort of do things, we can then sort of start to then work on that one. But in this case, we've actually now gotten and done enough. Actually, we're still working on the door. I'll just wait for that one to actually come through. Oh, here we go. Okay, the alligator snapping turtle is fighting the sea lamprey. We don't have to worry about it, so let's just leave that one where that is. Now, I won't go through change, like this one's going round now and sort of and putting things in their places, and really it's not a good use. We've got our first door, so let's go and place a door here, just so that we've got like a block, so that if anything does come down, we can just lock that particular door. So we do that one by going to our build menu, we go into doors and hatches, and we just go to the door and throw that one into there. We've got one plumwood door. There we go, they're bringing the animals in. Now, if you are wanting your miners to go and do different things, that's a different area. I won't go through the min-maxing of that sort of thing at this stage, but I tend to try to just have the miners focused on mining. You can just turn those things off in the labours menu, but I'll leave it on for now. There we go, we've got our door. Now, if we don't like what's happening, like if there's something outside, we can actually go to the door and lock it, and so that makes it impassable. So that's one thing. Now, the hatch cover, not seeing that one. I think we're still working on this one. Actually, the wooden door is now being done. Sometimes it'll be underneath under here. No, I think actually it looks like the hatch cover is somewhere else. So let's just go back up the top. And so over the top of these, we can put another door, essentially, by the hatch cover. So we'll just go and do that as well. Oh, it's not accessible at the moment. It may be that somebody's either carrying it. Just watch what actually happens in through here. It's sort of been allocated usually. Will be what's going to happen. We'll just look for it to appear somewhere. There it is. Okay, so the hatch cover has now been placed there. We'll just go back up the top, and now we can go and place it. So often, if you know that you've got one, it's just usually a matter of just waiting until somebody has done something with it. So we'll just go and place that one there. And once that's been built, we can then lock it from here as well. So this is exactly like doors. Just be aware that there are some creatures that can break through these, but not very many, to be honest. So it's particularly in the early part of the game, it'd be unlucky to actually end up with anything that can break through. There we go. So if we wanted to, same deal. We can actually lock that one down as well. And so this is secure, and we've actually now got our plan ready to go. I think this will do us actually, as in terms of where we are with this start. It just gets you into the game. So I hope that's helpful. I'll leave it there. I'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.